where the Rough Riders going up against the Elks. I don't know how that came out.
Yeah, all right. I didn't know if you were trying to beatbox there for a while.
I thought I was having a stroke.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the CFL Weekly Show brought to you by the 11th Island. I'm Brad, here with Chris. Today we're looking at Week 13, recapping that, looking ahead to Week 14. But Chris, we've teased it for a few weeks now, so what are we starting off with?
Yeah, Ryan was out here in the comments saying he doesn't believe in the special news, but we have special. We wanted to lead with it. We didn't want to clickbait anything or have you waiting. The special news: we got Grey Cup tickets for this year. We're going to Hamilton for the Grey Cup.
How narcissistic of us to be like, you know what, special news, everybody, we're going somewhere.
Yeah, but the point is, it's the game that brings all the CFL fans together, and we have some people amongst our audience, the people that get hoodwinked by YouTube into clicking on these videos. Some of them are Argos fans. We see them at the Argos games. Other people, they've been in the comments, they've been in the views, the likes, whatever. I don't know. They're just lurking around. That are just from other teams, and we don't see them at BMO Field. Maybe people are coming to the Grey Cup. Come say hi. Maybe we could set up something. Say hello.
Here, I'll pull it up. I'll see. Yeah,
we're in in terms of the orbit of the stadium. We're just way out in the
we're section
nosebleeds.
217, row 17. So we're pretty high up there. It's on December 12th. We're gonna be freezing up there. But yeah, by all means, man, we'd love to. Hopefully, you're gonna make it over to Hamilton. We see you at the Toronto games. Hopefully, we see some other fans there. That'd be great. But it's I think it was something that we kind of went back and forth on a little bit more than I expected to buying this, but I think it's something that we had to do after losing out on so many sports for that COVID year. You kind of had to go to this game, Chris?
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be bumping in Hamilton. We tried to get out to a Ticats game this season, but we couldn't make it to Tim Hortons Field. Just didn't work out. So it'd be nice to be I've never been to Tim Hortons Field, so it'd be nice to go check it out. We've never been to a championship game before. It's not often you get to do that, and the prices weren't awful. They weren't terrible.
We paid about, I think it ended up being around $310 per ticket.
Yeah, for 2 tickets, it billed my credit card $700 plus fees.
Yeah,
pretty much.
So that's a situation where you're looking at, it's pretty steep, but it's a championship game, so that's what you can expect. But you compare our season's tickets for the Argos, where it was 7 games plus a playoff, which is looking a lot like it's going to be an East Final. We paid $360 each for that.
Yeah, so it's pretty much, we're talking you could go to every single Argos game, home game, or you could go to the Grey Cup. That's BMO Field. It's a best kept secret, because now that the full capacity, now that the Argos looking real good going into the playoffs. Next season, I'm hoping that these prices don't go up.
I would honestly too. I would love to really kind of emphasis on it next year once kind of COVID's died down, and really kind of go out and spread it. Because I've been to where Montreal plays, to McGill there. For you, Chris, you've only really been to BMO. I've only been to BMO and to see Montreal play. I would love to go to where the Red Blacks play. Obviously, Tim Hortons Field, we'll see it this year. Even go out west. I'd love to see some of those stadiums and honestly, even just look into the prices, because I've always felt that Toronto was way lower on the prices. We know for sure that they're lower than Hamilton, which is really close by. So I wonder what the price points for tickets across the league are like. It'd be kind of interesting to see.
Yes, yeah. But speaking of
you gave me the look of exactly that is not something that I've ever thought about or care to see.
Yeah, well, speaking of cheap tickets, the Stampeders went to Ottawa and then beat the Red Blacks 26-13. Brad, what do we think about that game? To start off, there's a couple favorites on Friday. We got 2 games in this category. This is chaos.
Yeah, we changed things up a little bit. We're 5 minutes and we're already off the rails. It's on Friday the Elks and the Red Blacks played, and it's exactly what we thought. So we start with the Stamps and Red Blacks game. It's Calgary won. They should have won. They were supposed to win, and they did. So you can't take anything away from Calgary, but you can't look at this game and go, "Oh, like this is where they're building this guy, like big performance." It's kind of what you expected. Like Bo Levi Mitchell, like what was Box where how many yards did he throw for? I don't think he had any
I mean,
touchdowns.
no touchdowns.
Hmm.
242 yards.
Yeah, that's exactly
Um,
what you thought. I mean, you
22
get ahead.
completions,
Hmm.
75% success rating.
Hmm.
You know.
So, I mean, I think it's a situation for this where it's Calgary. There's not honestly a lot to talk about with Calgary here. It's a big win for them in terms of the standings. So you
Hmm.
can't take anything from there. They did what they had to do. But for Ottawa, it's almost more interesting to talk about them for the sense of what are you doing at the QB spot? Clearly, Caleb Evans' experiment is not working out. It's tough because of how bad Ottawa is. That definitely doesn't hurt his development. But do you go to Duck Hodges here? Do you throw him kind of to the wolves for the last little bit of the season and see if you got something that essentially test, do we have a QB for next year, or do we have to go out in this offseason and figure it out? Get Trevor Harris, like I've been saying is going to happen for the last couple of weeks. But I think it's time to make that move. I think that they kind of 2 weeks ago threw him in the middle of the game. I didn't like that, especially when he hadn't been there very long. I think next week you can start him. You're gonna lose the game. Like that's fine. He's probably not going to put up great numbers, but you can see what if he's starting to pick things up, how it's going with the understanding that this is a bad football team, so he's not going to be a world changer here.
And I think it comes down to coaching, right? It comes down to how do we mentally approach each game that we have left now. Because if
Mhm,
you have a kind of a handful of guys that might be the person to roll out next season, and you want to
mhm,
A, give them experience, B, get a sense of how they look, what it looks like, how we can build a playbook around these guys if we want to have them for a long haul. You know,
mhm,
you have to say, okay, this is the preseason that we never had this year. You know, this is we
mhm,
have to go out and say there is no such thing as a wins and losses. The score against us doesn't matter. You know, we just got to go out there and try things. And I think if you're a young quarterback, that is one of the hardest things. It's easier said than done because I mean, you got a cheering crowd around you. Sometimes you have a booing crowd around you. You have teams that are, you're going up against the teams
mhm,
that are trying to fight for playoff
mhm.
spots and use you as a statement game to the rest of their division, would be it East or West, wherever you're playing. But as a young quarterback, you kind of have to come into it with the thought that this is preseason right now. This is preseason for 2022, and we are looking
Mhm,
ahead. We're looking for the future, and I think it's up to Paul Lapolice and the rest of the coaching staff to kind of take a breath, take a step
mhm,
back, you know, talk to like, and you got to build a culture where the rest of the team around, who are all guys fighting for jobs within the league, within either the Red
yeah,
Blacks or fighting for contracts other places that are getting stressed right now. And we've seen it
mhm,
from the bench. I mean, to sit behind a few games ago, I was behind the Red Blacks bench at a game. Tensions are high. You know, if
mhm,
everybody can just take a breath and say, look, this is everybody's preseason and everybody's trying to stand out here for their own
yeah,
individual sake, you know,
yeah,
we have to just not let the score on the field or on the
mhm,
scoreboard and what the other team's doing on outside of this game going into the playoffs. We have to take all of that out of the equation and we just really have to play non-emotional football where we are thinking optimistically about next year. And I think that is such a tall bill to order because, as I said, emotions are just everywhere right
mhm.
now this time of season.
Yeah, and I mean, you can like that. That's very well said. And I mean, you can essentially take that and apply it exact same way to the Hamilton Edmonton game, to the
Hmm.
Edmonton Elks. Like you look at that game, Hamilton beat up on them. The score doesn't really even show that. Like Masoli really balled out. I think with this game, even more so than what we saw from Calgary, you can see that Masoli's kind of really starting to come into his own here in the last couple of games. And with all the quarterback kind of not drama, really, for lack of better terms, for Hamilton, it's kind of you maybe have your guy here at Masoli coming down
Hmm.
the stretch that you're going to stick with. But Edmonton, I mean, Edmonton's been a dumpster fire. The same as probably worse than Ottawa. It's what are we doing here? You brought in Nick Arbuckle. Clearly, I don't know if you give him playing time down the stretch here. He's been there for less than a week. We didn't get to touch on the trade last week too.
Hmm.
For people that are wondering, the trade happened literally an hour and a half, 2 hours after we stopped recording. I don't think it's worth it to get into kind of our opinions on that. Old news now, but do you think that Arbuckle gets a start? Because clearly the Taylor Cornelius and Prukop are not getting it done for Edmonton here. Do you think Arbuckle gets in, or do they save him for next year?
I really think Arbuckle will see some playing time.
Hmm.
If not just to like give him. I mean, if you're Arbuckle, you've been brought into this team. Like you go from a team that's first in the East to the
Hmm.
team that's last in the West. You know,
Hmm.
he's probably just for Arbuckle's sake. You know, I would just give him some playing time just so that he can say like, yeah, I've done something out of this
Well,
trade. You know,
and also too, you look at the situation. Toronto is still first in the East if Nick Arbuckle is the starting quarterback, considering he was the starting quarterback for their biggest win of the year
hmm
against Winnipeg.
hmm
Winnipeg's only loss is against Nick Arbuckle starting at quarterback.
hmm
So it's a situation. I like Nick Arbuckle as a quarterback. I think he's a really good quarterback. I think he's got a lot of potential in this league. I think he's got a high ceiling. I
yeah.
think obviously he struggled this year with injuries, struggled a little bit with inconsistency. But again, the entire Argos team did on the road as well, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where he struggled. I think Arbuckle has a real future in this league. Edmonton, I don't know if they have the ability to bring it out of him because you're looking at a good quarterback like Trevor Harris, who
hmm
sucked this year. And then you have a lot of good players on that team that are sucking because
hmm
of the culture and just the whole coaching staff and everything. So I think it's a situation where Arbuckle, even if he gets into games late this
hmm
year, his
Well,
performance is probably not going to be good, but it's not indicative of him.
and let me pull this up, right? Because you have a situation where because of the Elks running with COVID beginning of the season, we have a game between the Elks and the Argos that's being pushed back to week 16. So the Argos don't have that one game that was added to week 16. They had a bye then, but the Elks had a game already on Friday. So the Elks are playing on Friday, November 19th against the BC Lions in BC, but they're also playing the Argos on Tuesday in Toronto. So this is a
And correct
crazy.
me if I'm wrong, too. They're going to be playing the Friday before, too. They play 3 games in seven
Yes,
days.
and they played that no, that's Saturday. They play the Saturday before,
Oh.
which is even closer in out west in Saskatchewan. So I'm wondering if that Tuesday, like you can't have Cornelius Taylor. I mean, pitchers in baseball don't pitch on that short rest. A quarterback, that guy's going to need Tommy John or something. So I think you got to throw an Arbuckle into that, at least that Tuesday, November 16th game in Toronto as the
Yeah.
Argos. I mean, so you have a situation where the Argos are in a tight race to clinch first. They've clinched playoffs, but they're in, and that game could be more important than the Elks could like ever hope for one of their games to be this season, right? So then you
Yeah.
put
I
in
mean, are
Arbuckle
you,
against
yeah.
McLeod Bethel Thompson, and you have an Elks that are just have a chip on their shoulder, a QB that has a chip on his shoulder versus Macbeth and the Toronto Argonauts at home, where at this point, if they can beat the Tigers, they haven't lost yet. There's some drama there. There's some spicy drama.
Yeah, I like that. It's a little Nick Arbuckle revenge game, and really a big chance here to spoil some playoff positioning for the Argonauts here. I like that, and it's a situation where Edmonton during that stretch. I'm sure we'll touch on it during the stretch too. That they're gonna be beaten down. The CFL really did them dirty with how they scheduled this. I I don't know. I don't know who checked off on this decision. It's terrible for whoever in health and safety decided 3 games in 7 days is okay for professional
Yeah.
football players probably should be fired immediately.
Well,
So
well,
yeah, I think you
everybody
almost have
can,
to rotate some players in.
yeah, DM at CFL Commish on
Mhm.
Instagram. Give him your complaints
Okay.
for how he's arranged this. Um, this is terrible. All right.
Yeah.
Do we
All right.
have we had enough of that? Let's go into
Yeah.
even more Argos talk here with a
Yeah.
tight
I mean,
finish at BMO Field. 31-29. Brad, you were at that game. What was it like?
yeah. Well, it was cold and wet. That's what it was like. But the game itself, it was one where the BC has been kind of struggling. They played all right, but Toronto just kept trying to lose this game. They really did. Like, McLeod Bethel Thompson was missing a lot of wide open throws, which is not a good look after you trade Nick Arbuckle away and put all your faith in him, and he can't hit a wide open receiver down the field. And then in the fourth quarter, where BC just missing kicks, and the kicks they kept being right in front of where I was sitting. And it's tough. I don't know if you're listening to this, you've been in a football game. When you're looking at this field goal thing, you can't see the ball go through. You just see it go past, so you can't see. So I kept thinking the guy was drilling them, but they're missing wide, and so everybody in the stands is going, wait, he missed it. He's 30 yards out. What's going on? And then he would come back to the bench, all putting his head down. He was taking some abuse from some of the fans too.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw I was
Yeah,
watching the game with my dad, and after the last kick that was whiffed, he was sitting on the bench, and I'm like, oh, and my dad was like, oh, I think maybe the setter was like talking to him, like maybe a disagreement, maybe a little bit. Oh, it's getting kind of heated, and maybe the setter. Turns out it wasn't the setter; it was the fans that were sitting next to Brad.
Yeah, there was the people in front of us were saying some nasty. Well, the one was funny because his name's Camacho. They kept going, too many nachos, Camacho, and then because he is a little bit vertically challenged, some people were making some mean comments about that. So no wonder he went out there and missed two more. But I mean, the ending play where they're on about the 8-yard line, and there's 50 seconds left. Yeah, right. There's 50 seconds left, and they decide to kneel the ball twice to just give the ball back, essentially in field goal range, only down a point, with a timeout in hand for BC. When they're kneeling, the second they start kneeling, we're all looking at the clock. We're going, are we like? I thought I was okay at math. Am I like calculating this wrong? Why are they doing this? They punt it away. BC make quick play, gets up the field, and we're going, what just happened? Why are they trying to lose the game? What's going on? And then, of course, too many nachos. Camacho goes out there and shanks it. So off to overtime we go. But I mean, the Argos came out in overtime. Of course, they get in the touchdown, 2-point conversion, which came in very clutch as BC failed on the 2-point conversion. But hell of a game. It was a thriller to be at. But I mean, just terrible football.
Well, it's kind of a thriller in the sense of the horror movie where like the person just keeps making bad decisions. It's like, okay, we're gonna split up the group, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna open that door, and it's a thriller. Like you're scared for the person, but also at the same time you're like, you know what, you got what you deserved if this goes bad.
Yeah, it was an interesting game to be at. It was a lot of people with kind of this stunned look on their face in the crowd, going, "Like, what just why are they doing that? What just are they trying to lose the game? What's going on here?"
Mm-hmm.
But it was all in all, it was good. I mean, at the end of the day, the Argos won. They're still perfect at home going into week 14. That's what you have to do, and especially in a shortened season. You can't lose the games at home that you need to win. They've clinched a playoff spot. They're looking like they're going to be hosting a home playoff game. It's no matter how you win them, as long as you win them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's interesting with that going for 2 points there in overtime, where the commentary team on TSN was saying like, you got to go for 2 here, you got to go for 2, and I was like watching the game as I said with my dad, and we were having a conversation about like, okay, is that true? Is that the truth? And it's kind of like we were going back and forth on, well, they're from the 35-yard line, they're gonna you got to assume both guys are gonna score a touchdown. You gotta yada yada yada, and then it's like, is it better to force the other team to do the 2 points, or to, what I mean, like, or to basically guarantee a tie when they kick an inevitable field goal? But then it's like, well, I mean, they haven't been too good with the field goals tonight, so then it's like, wow, blah, blah, blah. And it all works out in the end. What were you thinking in the stands when they went for 2?
All I was thinking is I was going like, It says a lot for Ryan Dinwiddie as Argos coach to have a extremely bad coaching blunder that just about lost you the game, to go into overtime and do a ballsy play like that and not immediately go, I just about gave the game away, and now I'm gonna keep it safe. Because that's what a lot of coaches would do. They'd kind of panic, play it safe, kick
Yeah.
it, and then go, well, he just missed 3, so he might not even hit the extra point. Instead, they go aggressive, they go for it, they make it, they go home the winner. I like it from Dinwiddie. It shows that, I mean, at the end of the day, he's gonna the pressure's not gonna get to him.
Yeah.
Even if you make a stupid decision, they're gonna come back from it. Shows with Bethel Thompson too, to be able to lead the team down and do that after, again, some of the really head scratching things that he did as well. It shows a lot of poise from this team, kind of the veteran leadership that they do have, even if when stupid things happen, even 10 minutes later, they're able to rebound from it and win an important game.
Yeah, and what I liked about that play too was it was a very patient play
Hmm.
from Macbeth. You know, he like that those plays, like he just sat in the pocket, trusted, he knew
Hmm.
how much space, extra space he had in the end zone, and kind of sat
Hmm.
back on the play, let the receiver drop back, dropped it into his hands. It was a
Hmm.
very calm play. It was like sometimes you see a quarterback drop back and you just immediately know the ball's in good hands. And it was
Yeah.
those were one of the plays, which is what it's kind of like, that feeling has certainly been lacking from Macbeth. And
Hmm.
I think that moment in overtime,
Hmm.
after just not only a bad decision on the coach, but you got to put something on that quarterback as well.
Hmm.
I think if you're now, we're trading away Arbuckle, and you're now the guy, you have to take some responsibility on a play call like that, where you're the guy taking the knee, to not
Yep.
be able to say, hey, whoa, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. You know,
Yep.
I
No, I
think
agree.
for him to come off that too, where both he and Dinwiddie are in some hot water, and to take a ballsy play, but to do it in a very calculated way, patient, calm way. That was a
Hmm.
big moment for the Toronto Argonauts, and I think that is the taste in their mouth that's going to carry them through into the playoffs.
I agree here. And their win over BC pushed BC down and allowed somebody else to clinch. So, Chris,
Yeah, that was a good segue. I'm usually the segue guy, and you just kind of stole my thunder, but that was good. So the Rough Riders 19 to the Owlets 14. Some big things happening in the East and West off this game, Brad. What are you thinking?
yeah, this was a huge game for playoff implications here, with especially with how hard of a schedule Montreal has here. They're really going through the ringer in the last few weeks, trying to catch Toronto in first now. Saskatchewan also needed this to keep pushing Calgary down. It was a low scoring game. I really would have expected this game to be a bit higher scoring. Both defenses really came out, especially
Mm-hmm.
Saskatchewan's defense. I think one of the big stories coming out of this is Matt Schultz gets benched for Montreal, and they go in favor of Trevor Harris. At the time, I didn't like it. I would much prefer to see Schultz kind of finish the game out, because it was obvious that Montreal, and we've talked about it for the last couple of weeks, ever since they made the Trevor Harris trade, that Montreal was just waiting for the opportunity where they could yank Schultz out of the game and insert Trevor Harris. And he just
Mm-hmm.
hadn't given that opportunity yet. And so that's got to have a lot of pressure on Schultz, especially playing against a solid team like Saskatchewan, when you know that the second you screw up, that somebody else is coming in
Mm-hmm.
that makes a lot more money than you and has a lot more tenure in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Even though arguably Schultz has played better this year, but in all reality, Trevor Harris came in, wasn't able to obviously win them the game, but at that point it was kind of not out of reach, but it would have been real tough. But he leads him down, scores a touchdown. Trevor Harris might be, in all reality, the way to go for Montreal. I just didn't
Mm-hmm.
like it in the middle of the game. I would prefer Schultz finishing out and start Trevor Harris next week.
Well, it sucks too, coming off a week where you take your biggest division rival right now and you give them insult and injury on the field with a huge score at home. You're fired up, and we had said before that game that this is the game where Schultz has to really prove himself, and then the Alouettes really have a decision to make. Well, it turns out, you falter a little bit the next week, and it's just boom,
Mhm.
you're gone. And it's almost like you almost get the sense of, as you said, they were waiting for the earliest opportunity to put Harris in that game, and it was probably a combination of like, okay, we have a metric for when Trevor Harris is ready, has studied the playbook enough, and he's been studying, and he got out of study hall halfway through a game, and they said, "Get on the field." You know,
Yeah,
it was a bit of both there.
Yeah, he did look good in his short time. He did look good. I think that Montreal, and they know that they're going to be going through the ringer. They might want that extra tenure. Trevor Harris has been good this year too for Edmonton, but again, like we mentioned before, Edmonton's been kind of a train wreck. So how much of that is on Trevor Harris? How much of that is on Edmonton? It's going to be it's also for it's a good situation for Montreal. They can kind of try and rebound, win some games, going with momentum with the guy that they think is going to be starting. Because clearly, I don't think Vernon Adams is going to be back and healthy in time for the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also for Trevor Harris personally. This is a big stretch for him because he's 36 years old. With Edmonton being as bad as they were this year, that could have almost spelled the end of it if he doesn't get out of there to a good team here. If he really balls out, kind of like a Zach Claros last year with Winnipeg, and really kind of shines, he could be looking at he's signed for next year, but he could be looking at a starting position next year because he's not going to be, if he's still in Montreal, he's not going to be starting, which I don't think you can keep him in Montreal on the salary with him and Vernon Adams. I don't think he pushes Vernon Adams out, but he could be a real big trade chip in the offseason. And Montreal's got a real chance at making the Grey Cup here. Anybody from the East could come out, and it wouldn't shock me. And if Trevor Harris plays to the potential that he has in the past, I mean, people are thinking he might win MOP this year. If he goes out and plays at that level, Montreal's really going to be a force to reckon with here.
Yeah, and I think it you mentioned Vernon Adams Jr., and I think this really solidifies that he's not coming back at all in 2021, just because if you knew he was coming in week one if you made it to round one of playoffs and you brought him in, like why bring in Harris to learn the book and everything and whatever when you just let Schultz ride that out? But yeah, I don't think
even if Trevor Harris heats up here too, and Vernon Adams comes back healthy, I don't think you can bench him.
You can't
with
you can't
Vernon
bench
Adams
him,
not playing for a couple of weeks. But I also think here's Saskatchewan. One of the things that I take away from this game, they really got to start finishing more. 3 points isn't going to cut it when you're going into the West Final against a team like Winnipeg. Honestly, even they're going to be playing Calgary in the week before that. Calgary's going to be a tough out for them too. That's going to be really a good game. It's at this point, I don't know who comes out, Saskatchewan or Calgary, because Winnipeg's already clinched. We know that somebody's traveling to play in Winnipeg. It's really up for grabs here. Honestly, home advantage too is really still up for grabs there, and that might end up being the deciding factor. Saskatchewan's up right now. See if they can hold on.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about home field advantage. I mean, you got Saskatchewan and Calgary, two of the most electric places to play in all of the CFL. I mean, that's a huge advantage to whatever team can come out on top. But now we're going to get into some Week 14 picks. Let me pull that up. There we go. And then we got... Do I have the odds here? I got the odds machine, the crystal ball. We're looking into it. Week 14, Friday, the 5th of November. BC Lions in Hamilton to take on the Tiger Cats. Lions are plus 6.5.
Yeah, I think you take the Ticats spread here. I think Hamilton wins this game. I think they win it by 7. It's BC is they played the Argos hard, but they are faltering. We're going to be 2 weeks removed at this point from them being slammed by Winnipeg. Hamilton is with Masoli as he's going. If he keeps playing the way he is, they should beat BC, beat him big.
All right, now the over/under for that game is 43.5. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think you take the over there.
Yeah,
I think the over's a play. Yeah. I think both teams can put up points. I think Hamilton can really explode with some points here.
Then we got, speaking of an explosion of points, maybe not, because we're going up against where the Rough Riders are going up against the Elks. I don't know how that came out.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. I don't know what happened there. That was involuntary. The Rough Riders, Elks, the Rough Riders are -6.
Yeah, take Saskatchewan here. They're gonna beat Edmonton big. I mean, I don't even know how to take you seriously. I didn't know if you were trying to beatbox there for a while.
I thought I was having a stroke. Okay.
I guess it's been a long day for both of us, but yeah,
Right.
Edmonton. Or no, sorry, Saskatchewan. God,
Yeah,
no, yeah,
Saskatchewan
Saskatchewan.
there. What's going on? All right, so 46 points. The over/under.
Under, because Edmonton won't put. Actually, no, over. Edmonton's been putting up some kind of garbage time points. It's fine. Yeah, take the over.
I would take the under there. So again, the next game on Saturday in Ottawa, Toronto taking on Ottawa. Toronto Argonauts -10.5.
Yeah, take Toronto. After last week, where
Would
they
you take
almost kind of.
Would you take the points or money line?
Well, I don't touch money line with their -10.5. That's terrible odds. But yeah, no, take them 10.5 because they're gonna beat up on Ottawa, and they're really gonna. I think this is a statement where it's like we kind of almost like gave it away last week. We really need to kind of step it up. This is a statement game. They beat Ottawa. They beat them big.
All right, and 45.5. Based on that, you're saying over?
Probably, yeah. So I might at this point I'm going over for every game. I might as well go over. Keep it rolling. We'll take the over.
Keep
on
it
this
over.
one as well.
Okay, so we're taking the over. The over for this is 45 points, and who's playing? The Montreal Alouettes and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I think that's a pretty good one to take the over for. The Blue Bombers are -12.5. That's madness.
Yeah, Winnipeg wins this game, but you got to take Montreal in the points here at +12.5. That is a ridiculous spread. I think that's a major disrespect to Montreal.
Yeah.
I think this is game of the week here.
Yeah.
I think we're looking at probably the best matchup. 12.5 is a big. I mean, Winnipeg has been.
These are two, mind you. These are two teams that could likely face off in the Grey Cup. And there's a 12.5 point spread.
Yeah,
what does that say about the East? Ryan's gonna have a field day with this.
But we're looking we look way ahead here. You want to look way ahead.
Yeah.
If Winnipeg were to make the Grey Cup, this spread for the Grey Cup might be over 10 points.
Yeah.
That's wild. Especially because it like even if a team like Hamilton won and got true home advantage in the Grey Cup, they'd still be 10 plus underdogs, I think.
Yeah, unless Mazzoli, I think the team with the most potential on the page is the Ticats, and I think a big thing is Mazzoli really heating up to his full potential right now, which he kind of is trending towards. Where maybe in a few weeks it's a different scenario going into a Ticats at home Grey Cup against the Bombers. But I think every other team, I mean, the Alouettes really need to have an identity crisis with QB right now. And the Argonauts are just like what team shows up. So it's going to be interesting how the odds makers try to sort out a Grey Cup.
Well, I mean, also from the West right now, the Saskatchewan and Calgary fans are screaming at us that don't overlook us, that they think they got a chance going into Winnipeg.
Yeah,
too.
and very
crazier things have happened.
Yeah, strange.
Crazier things have happened. This is football's a funny game, and you never any given weekend, any team can win.
Yes, any given day, even a Tuesday, because we've had a lot of Tuesday games this season.
Yeah, they gotta cut that crap out next year.
Speaking of
you got anything else,
crap,
Chris?
we gotta cut this show. Brad, tell the people where they can find us.
All right. Thank you for sticking with us. If you enjoy this, we do this every week. If you're tuning in this far, you already know we're back every week with the CFL Weekly Show. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the little bell for the post notifications. And we got a 350, 500 subscriber giveaway coming up. Check the sports card playlist. With that being said, if you're on YouTube, check us out on Spotify, all the podcast platforms. If you're on podcast platforms, do the opposite. Check us out on YouTube. With that being said, See you next week. Enjoy the slate of games.
See you later, buddy.